The Desert's Best Mix, Mix 100.5. Good morning, Bradley Ryan. It is 8:04. It's my pleasure to welcome in the studio, and don't be bashful when I call you a legend. Lee Rockers here. Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, when Kira Coyle emailed me and said, I had my opportunity to interview you in studio, I was like, this is great, because this dude owes me about $3,000. Because every time I turn your music on, I speed in the car. And I get in the ticket. Now, just the tickets I've had to pay by listening to your music.
That's what it's supposed to do.
Of course, co-founder of the Stray Cats and an amazing solo career as well. You grew up in New York, you just told me a little while ago.
Yeah.
That's a far cry from, like, who would be your inspiration? It's got to be those Tennessee guys like Carl Perkins, Roy Acuff, like Hank Sr., like all this great music. How do you stumble upon this growing up in New York?
Well, it was strange. I discovered sort of early rock and roll sort of through the back door a little bit. I was, in a band playing in New York doing CBGBs in Max's Kansas City in the late 70s, and it was sort of the punk era. And down at CBGB's, they had, believe it or not, this poster of Elvis Presley, dressed in all leather from 1968 when he came back and was cool once again, when he sort of abandoned the lounge kind of thing.
Right.
And, Sex Pistols are going on and all this stuff, and there's this poster of Elvis, and, I dug back and listened to, like, the early music, and it just grabbed me. It hit me and stuck with me, because that music, it's rockabilly music, is really like the building block of rock and roll, and in a certain sense, it's the original rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it really is its roots. I was curious to find out, like, what exactly you would kind of, call what you do musically. Rockabilly, like Americana, like what punk rock. Because let me tell you something. One of the coolest punk rock shows, and I would have called it punk rock because it was at a bowling alley. We went to go see Reverend Horton Heat, and they were playing, and we were bowling while they were playing, and it was like the coolest thing ever. I'm like, wow, this is totally punk, but it was like a rockabilly or psychobilly, or what do you call it?
Yeah, it's all rock and roll. I guess you got to put a tag on things, but when it started, at any rate, it was rockabilly in the 50s, and that was sort of, that term was a mix between rhythm and blues and country music,
right.
And it was sort of that hybrid. At this point, it's just good old American rock and roll.
Is that what we're going to see on Saturday night? You got a show at the Rock Yard.
Definitely, yeah. Out at Fantasy Springs Casino on Saturday. We're going to have a blast. I got my guys coming out. I got a great band, and we're going to have some fun. Cool.
You guys are going to go on at 9 o'clock. It's a free show. It'll be outside. It's a very cool venue. It's really, really cool. Now you do some old stuff or new stuff, or what?
I do some of everything really, throughout my career. So I'm definitely doing all of the Stray Cat hits, Rock This Town and Stray Cat Strut and Sexy and 17, although it's a little creepy to be singing that at this point,
But, tough time to be singing that.
But I sing it.
Right on. Can you hang out for a little bit?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, cool. Let's actually do some old stuff here, old Stray Cat stuff, and we'll be right back with more with Lee Rocker. It's Mix 100.5, the Desert's Best Mix. Good morning. Mix 100.5. Good morning, Bradley Ryan. The morning is 8:10. Lee Rockers here. That's the Stray Cats back there. It's so cool. Like I said, that music just it just makes you want to drink or drive fast or do something. I don't know, it's great. It's kind of almost like it brings out like I almost want to say like a rock spirit of like the hip hop community has. Like their music, it's almost like their voice and like their cry and their roar. And this, the rockabilly is kind of like, here's our aggression too,
Definitely.
So you've been out on the West Coast for a while. Is there a scene, like what's the scene been like for you? What you do, like the rockabilly thing, it's really niche and it's tough to try to get some radio love. Is there like a scene in the clubs out on the West Coast?
Well, yeah, there's an underground scene that is kind of alive and well, and really all over the place. I'm on the road everywhere from California to Moscow and Tokyo. I'm all over the world over the years, and there's a great rock and roll scene that's alive and kicking, you know.
It's a cool thing, you know. When I was first exposed, you know, to the music, as far as like, you know, later in life. I mean, we all grew up listening to the Stray Cats records and stuff like that. But I remember walking. It was like the Green Room in Providence, Rhode Island, and I had stumbled in, and everyone in there had, you know, these huge high pompadours, the slick back, and everyone was covered in like, you know, Ace of Heart tattoos and the pants. It was like the coolest thing. It was the coolest vibe, and everyone had such a cool, like, dirty attitude. And they started playing the music, and I was just like, wow, this is so cool. And the guy gets up on stage with this gigantic stand-up bass, and you know, he's just throwing around the room. He's jumping on it, and it's cool. Are you still getting crazy with the big double bass on stage?
You bet.
Yeah.
You definitely, you know, walk on it and surf on it, and, you know, pick it up like a guitar. But yeah, I mean, we're having a blast, and we're gonna have fun on Saturday. It should be a great night.
Saturday night, the show at the Rock Yard. It's a free show, by the way. So if you're not there, you're absolutely foolish. Are you playing out? Just in like you said, you've been overseas and stuff. But is this show here just like a one-off in the area?
Yeah, this is the only one in the area.
Okay.
Have been on the road a lot this summer. Was just a few days ago out in Ventura with Styx.
Really?
And got a show with Pat Benatar coming up in Orange County in about a month or so. But this is the only show that we're doing anytime soon in the Palm Springs area.
Who would you say your heroes are?
Musical?
Yeah, musical. Well, what other kind of heroes do you have? Yeah, like besides anyone from
Kobe Bryant.
I was going to say besides anyone from the Lakers. This is so funny. Whenever we have someone in the studio and I tell them I'm from Boston, the first thing I say is, sorry about the Celtics. Because you know what? People can't wait to beat up on my Boston Celtics.
That's that Boston thing, you know.
Besides the hooligans that are the L.A. Lakers, who musically, like, who are your heroes?
You know, so many people. I love, was just on tour about a year or two ago with ZZ Top. And I gotta say, that was a fantastic show, and those guys were just so much fun to hang with. That I would definitely put them in the hero category. You know, really, the guys that I looked up to when I was growing up and got to work a bit with were, you know, Stones and Beatles. You know,
Right.
Back in early '80s with the Stray Cats, we opened the '83 or '81 or something tour for the Rolling Stones. Did a lot of dates and was fortunate enough to do that, and Beatles, you know, just grew up loving them and got to work with George Harrison a bunch and Ringo Starr, and
that's got to be just absolutely. I mean, that's the Beatles. That's you know, that's you know, I would never even begin to imagine, you know, what that. If someone, you know, had said to me, you know, hey, you get to work with Howard Stern, or you know, or someone like that for I would like, I wouldn't even. My brain probably wouldn't even be able to process something like that. So, I mean, that'd have been so amazing working with one of the Beatles, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing, and it was pretty early on, you know, so it was sort of at the start of my career.
Right.
And was living in London and really just, you know, fell in with the wrong crowd, you know?
That'll happen in rock and roll. You mentioned earlier that you been doing some shows overseas. Is there a big scene over there for rockabilly? Because I imagine, you know what, Europeans are so funny. They are so open and so exciting, and they get music. It seems a lot more, you know.
I've always spent a lot of time in Europe, and yeah, there's a great music scene. You know, I think there's an open-mindedness, and there's sort of also people go out a lot there.
Yeah.
You know, as opposed to being in your apartment in a lot of cities, people really live in the city as opposed in their apartment. So people are just out and you know, digging music, and you know, especially the summer times, it's just crazed.
Can you hang out for a couple more minutes,
Yeah.
man? Okay, cool. Lead Rockers here. We'll be right back with more. It's Mix 100.5. Good morning.